appreciate the turnout. It's wonderful. My name is Vicki Husband. I'm here on behalf of the Friends of Sandown Community Farm, and there are a few members here. I don't know whether they want to stand up or not, but I can see David Olson right here, who's really played a major role, Hildegard Horry, and I don't see Spring. He's here, who's done a lot of there we are, Spring is back there. I think everybody deserves, and Sylvia Miller, and I think they deserve a really big hand. So I think with no further ado, we'll move right into the panel, and I'll introduce them one by one as we go along. And I'm hoping they'll keep their comments to around 5 minutes. And I've got a clock. I guess it's my phone probably, but I have a clock as well. And they will speak 4 in a row. And then we have, I thought we were going to have a stand-up microphone, but this mic doesn't fit the stand. So it will have to be held and passed to people. And people who want to speak will have to line up in the middle row here. We'll do our best and see what we can do with that. And we'll keep the comments and questions quite short so that it allows as many people who want to ask questions or make comments that ability to do so. So thank you very much for coming out, and I think it's just terrific. I don't know, I'll have to talk to Joe, let us into the church, but I think we're must be at least 300, if not 350 people here in the room. So well done. So we'll start with our list of speakers, and they'll come up to the microphone because we have only one other microphone working tonight. I'd like to introduce Bob Peart. He is a North Saanich resident and has been here, I think, since over 15 years in North Saanich. He's a biologist, an educator with training in conflict resolution, has had a successful consulting company for over 10 years, 30-year resident of Victoria, 15 years in North Saanich, worked throughout North America on land use, park management, Aboriginal, grassland, and agricultural issues, founding director of the Land Conservancy, the BC Grasslands Conservation Council, and Child and Nature Alliance of Canada, worked on a number of CRD committees related to parks and regional growth, and he's currently a public advisor of the Gulf Islands National Park Reserve and a member of an informal group related to the future of Shoal Harbour. Please welcome Bob Peart.
Yeah, I echo Vicki. Thank you very much for coming. It's really great to see such a good turnout. It's important that there be a strong public voice and that the public have an opportunity to be heard. And I really believe meetings such as this are really, really important to democracy. Thank you to the local people who worked long and hard on this proposal and have kept expressing their views to Council. And thank you to the North Saanich Council and staff for the efforts that are being made to try and figure out how this proposal can move forward. I would hope that the message from tonight is strong and loud, that the citizens of North Saanich and the region want to retain agriculture and the rural character of the Peninsula. At the outside, I want to acknowledge the generosity of the current owner of these lands and his family. I don't know whether William Randall's in the audience or any members of his family, but in exchange for the commercial rezoning of 12 acres, he's gifting 83 acres to the district of North Saanich, as well as agreeing to provide an additional $100,000 to offset some of the development costs. It's important that society acknowledge and honor this type of altruism. This exchange is an astute business move. It's also a sustainable solution, an amazing opportunity for the people of North Saanich, and an excellent chance, which is the largest economic sector. And quickly, there are things on the walls. I'll just quickly review it. In brief, the major elements of the current proposal are the consolidation of the 8 existing parcels at Sandown into 2, an 83-acre agricultural parcel and a 12-acre commercial parcel. A covenant would be registered, restricting the 83-acre parcel to agriculture and associated uses. To replace the 12-acre commercial piece being removed from the ALR, 12 acres of municipal land will be included into the ALR and subsequently improved for agriculture. The 83-acre and 12-acre parcels will be in the ALR and made available for such agricultural purposes as leases to farmers, allotments for farmers, community gardens, farmer markets, and educational opportunities. The soil and drainage improvements required for these lands will be arranged by the district, and the district will enter into an MOU with the Agricultural Land Commission to ensure that 50% of the incremental tax rate increases will be directed to fund agricultural improvements for at least 5 years. It's important to point out the alternative. This proposal does not succeed, then it will most likely become the 8 existing parcels will be sold and developed as residences for rich people and further alienated from the public. I wish to emphasize a few points. The North Sandwich District proposal is future-oriented, community-based, and sustainable. Surely it's better to secure access to agriculture for the entire North Sandwich community than to build 8 more estate ranches. There are so few options for agriculture in the Peninsula to be ashamed to lose this opportunity. The Agricultural Land Commission supports this proposal. I quote, "We believe that with the leadership from North Sandwich Council, the community of North Sandwich will be gaining a significant asset of a large agricultural parcel that will be used in support of agricultural initiatives that will benefit the whole community." This proposal provides an opportunity for youth, school children, and their families to be involved. There's increasing evidence that today's young children are increasingly disconnected from nature and the web of life. There's even a term for it, nature deficit disorder. And this proposal, through its education programs and community gardens, will be an excellent opportunity to involve youth. This proposal is not a hit on taxpayers, as has been suggested. In fact, it will generate increased revenue of $350,000 from the leases and taxes, more from either the current situation or the potential 8 estate ranches. This proposal makes total business sense and is not a financial black hole. It's a regionally significant opportunity for building a sustainable food and agricultural system. This proposal is not just important for North Sandwich residents, but for Sydney, Central Sandwich, and throughout the CRD. So anyone who lives in the CRD has the right to be concerned about the results of this discussion. And a covenant is essential for restricting the use of these lands for agriculture in perpetuity. A covenant, ideally held by 3 parties, would remove the possibility that these lands would ever be developed as rural estates. Given that elected councils come and go, politics change, and in turn even the ALC may not be as supportive of agriculture in the future, it's essential to provide a binding guarantee on these lands, thus providing certainty to the citizens of North Sandwich. In closing, there are 2 general points I'd like to make. The first is the environment, agriculture versus economy taxes dichotomy that is so often put forward. It's a false dichotomy. The future should no longer be judged as black or white, either or. The future needs to be about both of these working together. The economy needs the environment, and the environment needs the support of the economy. In fact, most people working in the field of sustainability also include the social aspect. With the pressures on today's world, and what society is facing, we need positive, forward-looking, balanced solutions. The current proposal in front of the North Sandwich Council is such a proposal, and that's why I think we should all support it. The second point relates to the process for this decision in democracy. In our system, once elected, it's the responsibility of officials to represent the broad electorate, not just those who feel support of them at the polls. Elected officials need to examine for whose benefit am I voting. That answer should be to the benefit of the entire community, not simply a narrow few. Too frequently in today's society, our elected officials are short-sighted, positional, and partisan to such a degree that it's next to impossible to put forward good public policy with civility. The public voice is important to hear, and it's necessary that the public voice be considered in all decision-making. The situation here in North Sandwich is just an example. The situation could happen in any municipality, any region, happens provincially, happens a lot at the federal level. But we don't want this to be yet another example of nasty, frictional, positional politics that will drive good people away from government, discourage citizens from running, and drive the electorate away from the voting box. I think this trend is a shame, and it certainly isn't good for the economy, the environment, or society. I would hope, perhaps this is naive, but I would hope that the North Sandwich Council discussion will be professional, interest-based, and more directed to finding a solution that benefits the community rather than delay in the current acrimony. In support, I am wholeheartedly in support of this opportunity. It honors Mr. Randall's gift and the chance for a forward-looking, revenue-generating project that protects the ALR and supports the official community plan. It's a legacy for the future, and it's a legacy for the young children in this region. I hope that you are all supportive as well. It's essential you provide your input to council, and the council hear your voice. So please, tonight, as soon as you get home, or first thing tomorrow morning, send that email, send that letter, make that phone call. Let the council know that you support this opportunity to build a sustainable food and agricultural project on the Sandown lands. The direction that the public and community want need to be very, very clear to this council. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob Pierce, and we'll move right along because time is short. I'd like to introduce Robert Maxwell. He's a well-known farmer on the Sandown Peninsula. He's farmed with his wife, Janice, for over 20 years. He's a retired agrologist and is on the executive of 2 local agricultural organizations. He wanted me to say tonight his opinions are his own and not of any farm group. Please welcome Max, as I know him.
Thank you very much. Well, I was one of the founding members with a group of people who decided to do a similar thing with Hill Tribe people, your southern neighbors.
Speak closer to the mic. I think you're going to have to.
Can you hear it now?
Sorry. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
With the people in central Saanich to the south of you. So a group of us decided 20 years ago to start a country market, a farmer's market, because farmers weren't getting quite enough price. And we thought, well, there was people coming out from subdivisions, etc., and saying, let's help them. And we scrambled around, got a bunch of tables up, got a little piece of land, and lo and behold, the first day the people came out by the hundreds, and the community said, well, it'll never last, but it's gone on now for over 20 years, and it contributed a tremendous amount to the community, and we didn't know just exactly what we're doing. We have a bit of insight now when we look back over 20 years as to what a community builder it was. So the purposes of our society, and they really reflect a lot of the same words that's in your OCP and in your plans, was to support and promote the long-term viability and sustainability of local agriculture, and to support small-scale business enterprises, home-based businesses, and to encourage a sense of community, and to support local food banks. And we accomplished all this. But the one that was really neat and stands out to me is the sense of community. So I thought I would Google that and think, geez, what does that really mean? And the social psychologists are really on it, and they've got it figured out. Here's what Saracen says: the perception of similarity to others, an acknowledgement of interdependence with others, a willingness to maintain this interdependence by giving to or doing for others what one expects from them, and the feeling that one is part of a larger, dependent, and stable structure. Macmillan and Chavez say, a feeling that members have of belonging, a feeling that members matter to one another and to the group, and a shared faith that members' needs will be met through their commitment together. And I thought, geez, we did this. And when we look back, people had passed away in our market. Their kids went to university. After 20 years, you realize they earned quite a bit of money at that market. People got married. A lot of the people had little babies. They brought them to the market. And it was just really, really a wonderful thing. It can really happen the same in North Saanich. It's an identical setting, only that you have the opportunity for all this land, you can do it in a much, much bigger fashion. So we created a place that has character and has a soul, and the economics of it was really pretty amazing. So I went back and pulled all the financial statements almost for the last 20 years, and here's what we contributed. About $95,000 went to 4-H youth and a market manager. $39,000 went to local musicians. $37,000 went to rental, to the fairgrounds. And I would estimate, I tried to figure it out a number of ways, I don't really know, but it probably is at least $3 million worth of goods and services that we sold there. And what is quite neat about it, this is only 4 hours every week throughout the summer. That's 70 hours. That's how much a farmer's market can do, coupled to the sense of community. I thought, holy smokes, you know, the community really got behind this and really did a lot of good work. So when I roughly compare this to North Saanich and Sydney, you guys have about 24,000 people here combined. And if 1 in 20 people came to shop at your market, that's 1,200 people once a week. The national average at farmers markets is $32. You spend about $32 each. So that's about $38,000 per market for 16 weeks. That's $614,000 you could realistically expect from your market. But now you can couple that with at least 40 acres of your farm, your production. 40 acres, if you're a real good vegetable producer, mixed vegetables, and these new organic farmers, man, they know how to do it. It's in the range of $15,000 to $30,000 per acre. When you add that up, that's $600,000 per year in product, right beside your farmer's market. So this looks good to me. There is one thing that made it work in Central Saanich, is that we've had quite a number of agricultural projects there that all work. The Direct Farm Marketing Association, that's also been going for 20 years, and it's a wonderful advertisement and promotion for over 50 farmers, and the fairgrounds. But the rule of thumb is that when people come together in an agricultural community for an agricultural product, it's neutral ground. So it's a white flag zone. And if you saw the war horse, you know what I mean. So I'll leave the white flag with you.
Thank you very much, Max. Just a quick note on some of the statistics that I was given, that agriculture is sorry, I've had a cold, but I still have my voice. Agriculture is the largest economic sector in North Saanich and has the second highest economic growth in the last 5 years. The statistics are available for this in the CRD. Agricultural producers make up a very significant source of property tax revenues in North Saanich, more than any other CRD municipality. That's something I didn't know, and I thought you might be interested in that as well. Now, I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Bernadette Green. She told me that she's a 4th generation North Saanich farmer, and she's a market gardener and a leadership coach. And she was born and raised in North Saanich, growing up in her parents' nursery business. She is a member of the North Saanich Food for the Future Society and has been involved in the development of the agricultural plan and the whole community agricultural strategy for North Saanich. Please welcome Bernadette Green.
Thank you. And thank you for being here tonight. I really appreciate seeing such a large
Have
group.
to speak right into the microphone.
Okay. Such a large group of people here tonight. I just want to preface my remarks by saying that I am not here as Vice Chair of the Agricultural Advisory Commission, but as a private citizen, as a farmer, and as a member of the North Saanich Food for the Future Society. By the end of the century, the population of the world is expected to be 10 billion people. And over the next 50 years, our food system will need to produce more food than it has produced in the last 10,000 years combined. That means that if we need more food, we have to put more land into production. Vancouver Island produces between 5 and 10% of our food needs right now. We import the rest of our food, mostly from the US. We only have 3 days' worth of food on the island, which makes us very vulnerable should a catastrophe occur. An earthquake or rise in sea level can render the airport and ferries unusable, and 3 days later we will be clamoring for food. It's estimated that the amount of land needed to feed a person for 1 year is 1.5 acres. That means that presently our agricultural land in North Saanich is only able to support about 2,000 people, or less than a fifth of the population. Fortunately, we have the opportunity and conditions that will stand us in good stead for anything the future brings, provided that we plan well. We have the best climate in Canada for growing food. It is considered a Mediterranean climate. We have a long, mild growing season and can eat from our gardens all year round. We can grow over 50 different kinds of vegetables, many different kinds of grain, and dozens of different kinds of fruits and nuts. Bob Duncan on Wayne Road has proven that we are also able to grow all of the subtropical fruits here. Oranges, lemons, limes, grapefruit, olives, pomegranates, persimmons, avocado, and guava are among the 200 subtropical fruit plants that are already being grown successfully in North Saanich. We also have water. At present, approximately 85% of our produce comes from the San Joaquin Valley in California. This is an irrigated valley with no water source of its own. It's regularly hit with drought conditions, and many farmers are often told that their water quota for the year will be 0. In other words, they are not allowed any access to water to grow their food crops. And that's how quickly our food supply can literally dry up. So clearly, it would be imprudent and foolhardy to think that we can count on the San Joaquin Valley to be able to provide us with food that is affordable in perpetuity. So let's look at what we have here in North Saanich. We have a very favorable climate for food production. We have access to water. We have people wanting to grow food. And at this point, we still have the land. However, the land that we do have is not affordable for new farmers. The average age of farmers on the peninsula is 56 years, and it's going up all the time. That means that in 9 years, our farmers will reach retirement age. Who will replace them? A group of about 9 or 10 young farmers who have studied agriculture at UVic and have worked in mentorship programs or run their own small farms on leased land spoke very eloquently at the North Saanich Council meeting on Monday night. They spoke of their difficulty in finding affordable land, and some talked about how they would like to be able to farm on the peninsula, but have trouble finding large parcels of land large enough to make the investment in farming worthwhile. They're excited about the opportunity of Sandown, and most of these farmers do not live in North Saanich yet, but would almost certainly move here in order to be closer to their livelihood. And they're not asking for a handout. They're willing to pay for the chance to lease the land. Even the farmers who are already farming here in North Saanich are having trouble finding land to do that. One local mixed vegetable farmer has told me that he has difficulty finding land to lease because the owners are not willing to sign long-term leases of even 5 years. He needs a commitment of that length of time at least, because that's how long it takes to build up the soil, put in drainage and irrigation, and begin to make his investment pay back. But he finds that often owners want to keep their options open, to be able to sell the land in this lucrative real estate market. He sometimes even thinks about moving where land is cheaper. Another North Saanich farmer told me that he has looked for farmland in North Saanich for a while now, but can't find any that suits his purpose and that he can afford. He's another supporter of the Sandown proposal. We talk a lot about affordable housing. We ask, where are our children and grandchildren going to live? That's a fair question, and that's one that's worth asking. However, I think that there's a more important question we need to be asking, and that is, what are they going to eat? As the population of the world increases, so will the demand on our food supplies and the price of the food itself. Currently, the proportion of North Saanich household budgets spent on food is, North American household budgets spent on food is between 10 and 15%. In some European countries, it can be closer to 40%. Try to imagine what impact that would have on your standard of living and your quality of life if you had to pay 40% of your household budget for your food needs alone. In the future, feeding ourselves will require much more of our household budgets, and increasingly scarce food supplies will go to those who can pay the most for them. And the privilege of being able to own a pet, that will become a luxury that only the very wealthy will be able to afford. Everyone has a right to affordable food, and the more we can distance ourselves from dependence on outside food producers, the more likely we will be able to provide food that is affordable. But this requires vision and a commitment to protecting farmland for future generations. 83 acres can grow a lot of food, and the Sandown land is less than 1% of our total land in North Saanich. Less than 1% of our land that is being given to us, set aside to grow our food in perpetuity. Is that really too much to ask? Of course, population growth creates higher demand on land, and when that happens, we look to the land that is available, often agricultural land. So the competition is always there, housing versus farming. We have to see that both needs go hand in hand. We need houses, but we need food too. It's irresponsible to provide housing for more people without a plan for how those people are going to be fed. North Saanich is already at the forefront of the conversation about food security. With our whole community agriculture strategy and our economic development plan, we are a model for other local municipalities that are following suit. The Sandown proposal has excited much interest in our region for its vision and potential. We can truly be leaders in the increasing focus on food security. The Sandown proposal is a win-win for everyone and a wonderful opportunity to pull our community together with an inspiring and forward-thinking vision. Please, email, phone, or write your local councillors to encourage them to support the Sandown proposal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bernadette. Now our next speaker needs no introduction, I know. Please welcome Elizabeth May, our MP.
That's kind of a highlight for me. That's the first time Vicki Husband has ever introduced me as Elizabeth May, our MP. And Vicki and I have known each other for so long that we're sisters. So it's kind of a...
I didn't go further because I just...
And it would take a lot more than a cold for Vicki to lose her voice. But I want to start, of course, by acknowledging that we stand on and are here on the traditional territory of the Saanich peoples, and that we're in a wonderful community. My role here, and I want to say that I come with some trepidation and humility about the fact that as a federal member of Parliament, in some ways, none of this is my business. But this is a serious and important issue in our community, and I believe my role is to be of service to our community. And have those members of council or others who don't like this proposal ask me to come to a meeting, I would, of course, have come to any meeting on an important community issue, and I always will, and I mean that. This issue, and I think Bob Parrott put it well, this is a question around democracy. The fact that so many people have turned out tonight to discuss this proposal shows that we have, and thank God for this, we have a healthy, vibrant, engaged community that really knows how to make democracy work, locally, provincially, and thank God federally. I'm in a church, so I can keep saying thank God. Other times I have to be careful. I want to say for those, and we've seen this is not an issue without controversy, and I appreciate Max's white flag. This issue has had controversy, and I want to say, and also with all sincerity, that for those people who have been public in criticizing this proposal, I think let's approach that with the respect and the thanks that we should all feel for the usual and proper process of poking holes in things, kicking the tires, and making sure we know what we're doing. There's nothing wrong in that. And in the words of one of the ads I saw that was opposed to this, that we should have practice the normal prudence and good municipal business practices of any decision. I don't think any of us would disagree. So I've been doing some homework and going back, and I recommend that all of you who, if you have any questions, to do so. The staff of the District of North Saanich has done an amazing job. The staff report is so impressive and covers a lot of what the staff report starts by saying, of course, is that this proposal speaks to a number of the existing, and I think this is important, if this went against a municipal vision and a municipal plan, no matter how great we might think it is, if it was contrary to an existing set of plans for our community, then it wouldn't be right for the community. But as the staff report points out, that this meets 3 of the council's strategic priorities. So I'm just going to remind us of these 3. The number 1 strategic priority of the District of North Saanich is, quote, to protect rural, agricultural, heritage, marine, and environmental habitats. It also speaks to the strategic priority to, quote, encourage suitable commercial and local business development. And it also, and this speaks to Max's point about community, it builds a strong and vibrant community. These are strategic goals that the staff has realized are met and embodied in this proposal. What does it mean financially? And I've tried to pick up the points that others haven't made, but I thought this was quite an important thing for you North Saanich residents in terms of your tax base to look at. That if the land were kept in its current, right now there's about $22,000 collected off the land base right now of this proposal. If there wasn't an acceptance of this, of what I think is a quite amazing gift, there are 8 current lots if they were developed as homes and residential. If they were to have gotten farm status, of course, the tax rate would go down because of farm status tax rules. But let's just assume that as residential municipal lots, there would be less tax collected off the land than currently. So it would go from 22,000 down to just under 18,000. But under this proposal, with the withholding of 12 acres to become commercially developed, the staff estimate that there would be municipal taxes of $370,000. So the business case is quite strong in terms of improving the tax base of the community. And at one and the same time it improves the tax base, it also, of course, and this is what we've mostly been focusing on tonight, and for good reason, the outright gift of 83 acres to be protected and preserved in agricultural land, which has already gone through the screening of the Agricultural Land Commission, which has already been approved as a good plan by yet another report, which is findable, this one from November 14th of last year. This has already been accepted that 83 acres are viable agricultural, to be in the land base, to be agricultural land, to be part of the ALR. And this as well includes a gift from the Randall family and their corporate identity, the Ascot Jockey Club Limited, with $100,000 to help with demolition of buildings and any other costs. So when you do the due diligence, which is appropriate, and you kick at the tires, and you open the gift horse, and you look in the mouth, boy, what a gift horse! So I recommend that anyone with questions look into this, get hold of the staff reports. This is an opportunity, and all the points about food security, this is where at the federal level, we will continue to work as Greens nationally, because we need a food security policy in Canada. We don't have one. We need a commitment to assist, to protect local farmers, because the average age of farmers in this country keeps going up, because it's hard for those young farmers to get in, to begin farming when the land prices are so high. We have a combination of issues that mean that family farms and the ability to make a livable income on farm. I mean, most farms in Canada have to supplement their income with money off farm. To protect agriculture in this country is not something that happens by accident. It happens by intention, and it happens with vision. And that's why I'm happy to be here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And now we come to the public part of this, and I'd also like to acknowledge that we have, I'm not sure, I didn't see whether we had all the councillors here. I've noted that Mayor Alice Finnell is here, Councillor Craig Mearns is here. Can people put their hands up if other councillors are in the room as we look around? Celia Stock is here. Elsie's here. And someone else, Ted Daly. Thank you very much for coming. I want to acknowledge that. And the former mayor, yes. And the former mayor of Central Saanich is here, Jack Marr. I think he's still here. Yes, there he is. He's here too. And Karen Green, who's now a councillor lost in North Saanich, but now a councillor of Oak Bay. She's also in attendance. So I may have missed some others that I haven't noted, but if you want to identify yourselves, this is the moment. Thank you very much. And now I'd also like to mention that we asked, because we recognize that all of us here and the panel didn't have all of the technical expertise, so we asked if Rob Buchan would attend, the CAO of North Saanich, and he is here. So if we have any technical questions, he is here to be able to answer them, which I'm delighted to have, and that's a great help to us. And just before we started, I was introduced to Lauren Underwood, who's here from the Sawa Nation, and I was hoping that he would come up first to speak, if he was available here. I'm not sure where he's sitting. There we are.
I'm from the Sayout First Nation. I'm not here on behalf of our chief and council. I'm here because I grew up in this area. I grew up on the Sayout Reserve, in particular on the Pape Highway, when there was one lane into Victoria and one lane out. And as soon as it got dark, there was very little traffic, and by 9 o'clock at night, there was no vehicles on the road. Then with the expansion of the Pape Highway, Central Saanich Road was created, and our house was moved up onto Central Saanich Road. I'm here out of my concern for what I see as, again, I think, best described as democracy. For us, growing up on Reserve, very few of us ever really think much about going to university, studying philosophy, political science, law, any of those things. And I did that as a mature student. And what I see happening in Canada now, where we were once a peacemaking nation, now we're thinking of going to war with Iran. I don't understand that. So I was taking a law class at UVic, and we were talking about democracy, and we were looking at international law. And the students in the class were taking it for granted we live in a democracy, and yet I thought we were turning into a republic. So I asked our professor the difference between a republic and a democracy, and I said, is a democracy not where we elect our politicians and we tell them what to do? And she said yes. And is a republic not where the citizens elect their politicians and have their politicians tell them what to do? So I'm so thankful for the people that spoke before me, because that's my concern here. I was here at many meetings when there was a threat of the Saanich Peninsula Hospital being closed a few years back. Some of our children were born in that hospital. The maternity ward is gone. So I have a lot of concerns about the peninsula, because it's a beautiful place to live and it's a great place to die. And I think many people have moved here for that. That's why we have so many people. Elizabeth May, I'm so sorry about that.
It's a great place to die, but not soon, Mark.
No. But what I'm talking about is when I look out and see so many of our elders sitting in the crowd here. I don't think many of you are looking at moving to another country or another place, is what I'm saying. The hospital needs to be here. We need to have a good airport. We need to have a great highway to get people around. We need to make sure that the land can sustain the population growth. And that was my concern. The BC ferries, not too long ago, a couple of months ago, broke down in active paths with a load of I was fully loaded with cars and passengers, and it drifted, and it was 6 hours before they could get anywhere. It was just drifting in active paths with the current and the wind up. We are the closest ones to that. If there had been a disaster, they were trying to get people off that ferry if it had gone up on a reef. So that's how important we are here on the peninsula. And I call it ground zero. With the establishment of the Salish Seas, now we're at ground zero. Some of our elders might say, well, this farmland is like a reserve. Indians were put on reserve. The Gulf Islands Park Reserve. Like, whenever we want to protect something, we put it on a reserve, and that includes the Indians, right? So the farms, the ocean, the parks, everything is, if you want to protect it, put it on a reserve, right? So that's where I see this deal, and I think it's a great opportunity for people to come together and create that sense of community. And to not be so narcissistic and with our eyes turned inwardly at ourselves, but outwardly at each other. The Indians at Hartley Bay, with the sinking of the ferry up there, opened their houses, their homes, and their hearts to the survivors of that ferry sinking. Canadians opened their doors, their houses, their homes, their hearts at 9/11. Canadians are great people. And let's not forget that, right? So I think that's what I'm here for, is that very thing. And not to forget that in our culture, I was asked to remove my hat. And this is where we need to understand each other better. When I came in, I was told to take my hat off. And so I did. I bended to the rules of this house because that's what I was told to do. But if you were in my house, you would understand that that white feather in this hat is a sacred feather. And whenever I go to gatherings anywhere in the world and that feather's in this hat, I'm not asked to take my hat off. And these are my teachings, and I've spent decades trying to learn how to be a good person. I'm 59 years of age, I've still got a lot of life in me, but we need to understand each other's culture. And I'll just close with this. We have a 3,000 kilometer long debris trail coming at us from Japan, and it's estimated to be 18 million tons of debris from Japan. It's already washing up on the beaches of Alaska, Washington State, Long Beach here on the island. So we're going to need to come together as a community on the west coast of British Columbia to salvage, to save, to work together, to keep what we have intact in this natural beauty and landscapes that we have here. The Sandown racetrack, growing up here, I've watched how they've tried to make a go of it for so long, and I've been involved a little bit with jockeys and race horses from the perimeters, and I just think this is such an awesome deal. And First Nations, I would like to offer my services to the Randall family. If we work hand in hand with the local First Nations, we can mitigate a lot of the costs for the demolition of the structures, of creating topsoil, of making this a viable plan so North Sanish taxpayers don't carry the burden of any unforeseen costs. So I'd really encourage you all to look at the donut and not focus on the whole. Encourage your mayor and council. And I'd like to thank the people from the church here for opening their doors like they have. I was here for the sewage treatment plant, the new sewage treatment plant when it went in, the highway expansion, the Tavish Road Exchange. This is a creative place, this is a creative environment. And in closing, I'll remind you that the mountain behind us here is our sacred mountain that our people sought refuge on when the great floods came. Right across the highway where people walk their dogs is a sacred site to us. It's an old village site. It's recorded at the archaeology branch. It has a number, a registration number. So you're on sacred ground here. This is a beautiful place. And I'd just like to thank you all for being here and giving me the opportunity to speak. But we're here and we want to work with North Sandwich and the Randall family and offer our services and our labor and our expertise to help if this was to go through. So could you please get a hold of Mayor and Council, let them know what your thoughts and feelings are, whichever way they go. And I'd like to thank Elizabeth May for being here. She's an awesome person, and she's had a lot of contact with First Nations people back east before she came to God's country and found out how wonderful it is here. So, and Vicki Husband, for all the work that she's put into in British Columbia around environmental issues and her involvement with the TFLs, with the sell-off of our timber farm licenses and our forestry. She's just an incredible person. I don't know where she gets all her energy from, but you've got some really awesome people in the room here tonight. Thank you all very much, and God bless.
Thank you, Lauren. That's a wonderful offer, and I still am not pronouncing your people right. The Sao. Seo.
T silent.
Seo. Thank you very much. Just a quick notice. Can you please give your name, and you can give your address if you want, but I don't think it's totally necessary. I think this is a local and a regional issue. And and keep it as short as possible, because I think we'll probably have quite a few speakers. And I will accept comments as well as questions. And if you have questions, if you want to direct them to a panel member or to Rob Buchan, please do that.
Thank you. Good evening, and Elizabeth, it's good to see you here. Elizabeth May and I, we go to the same church at St. Andrew's Anglican. Okay, Elizabeth. Unfortunately, I'll have to direct these comments to your portion on the business plan. And
Can you introduce yourself?
Oh yes, I'm sorry. It's Rebecca Vermeer, and I'm a North Saanich resident for 37 years. With respect to the business plan case of the estimated $371,000 per year that would accrue to the municipality in terms of taxes paid on the land portion of the 12 acres and on taxes paid on the complete development of commercial and industrial facilities that would be established on that 12 acres. The estimated revenue at completely developed 12 acres would be $375,000 a year. Now, this amount of money is not going to be lost, as claimed by the Sandown proposal, the Friends of Sandown community. They say that a lost tax and lease revenue of approximately $350,000. That is not correct, because it is not unique revenue that would only accrue not only accrue to Sandown development. You see, this revenue, in the meeting that we had last Monday, the Council of the Whole meeting, it was clearly stated, and as I discussed this and asked this of Council and through Council to the Financial Officer, that this revenue could be realized still, even if Sandown proposal doesn't go through. It will still be realized in terms of development revenues coming from the development on airport lands. It is not unique to the proposal. Okay, so they can continue to earn, if the same type of development that Mr. Randall is proposing to develop on the 12 acres that will be excluded from the ALR, that development on airport lands will earn as much or even greater amount of revenue. So that will not be lost to the community if the project doesn't go through. Secondly, there's a comment in here.
Would you like to have that first question answered first, or?
No, it's not a question. It is a statement of fact.
Well, I think that we need to have that addressed, and we're going to...
The only question in here is that I would suggest that Elizabeth may look further into the business case, because there will be a better report that will be coming up after the discussions we've had last Monday. There's also the question of cost. In terms of the value of the gift, it's now going to be, there's a motion that was, the resolution that was passed by the committee, that they will be hiring, the municipality will be hiring an assessor to assess the value of the gift. Because there seems to be a very big number associated with the net gain in terms of the gift and the value of the gift after you have subtracted the cost. The cost has been shown to be grossly underestimated, and the value of the gift grossly overestimated. So the net gain is going to be readjusted downward. So it may well be that what you think is a good business case will not turn out to be a good business case. After all, when you take into consideration the ongoing cost of subsidizing the farming of that 83 acres of land.
Thank you very much. I'd like to call on Rob Buchan to address this issue. You could use either this one or whatever you like.
Why don't I try this? Okay, I appreciate the comments. The first point,
Keep it close to your mouth.
like this, is that better? Are the taxes unique or not unique to the Sandown 12-acre proposal? They are unique. The response that we gave you at the council meeting was, it's not either or. There can be development on the airport and there can be development here. If you take one of them away, then you lose that amount. So these dollars, the $375,000 or $371,000, are unique. In terms of costs, this is the first time we've actually, with this last staff report, quantified the cost of the land commission's requirements.
Can you keep speaking up for the audience, please?
Can you hear me in the back? Okay, so we've just provided for the first time the costs associated with the land commission's requirements. And they total, net of the $100,000 donated by the Randalls, $664,000. And, well, $664,500 to be precise. That's an estimate provided by our staff. And you know, we have a qualified engineer on staff to do this and qualified people. In terms of how that's to be paid for, the proposal has been, and still is, that it's not paid for by taxpayer dollars. It's actually paid for by the development. The tax is generated by the development. And that represents about less than 3 years of taxes at build-out. So it's being paid for entirely, it's proposed to be paid for entirely by the development. This money doesn't come in unless the proposal is approved. So in other words, you're getting it for free. They call this in the United States tax increment financing. And a few states use this progressive tool as a way to fund new municipal facilities. So I think that's pretty much answers the questions.
Thank you very much, Rob.
Well, my name is Bob Cameron. I live in Lochside Drive. The last 10 years in North Saanich. And before that, my family and I lived in Saanich, where I was twice elected to Saanich Council. So I know a little bit about the deliberations of council members and fighting for agricultural land and the pressures on it. But I'd like tonight to more revert to my role as a geographer. I'd like to ask this question of everybody. What takes 33 hours? What takes 33 hours at a world population increase of 10,000 an hour is the total capital region, all the people in it. That's all it takes to replace the total number we see from the Gulf Islands to Port Renfrew. And one of the previous speakers alluded to this sort of problem worldwide. If we look at it more locally, right down to this room, 30 times the population of this room, if the turnout is around 300 or so, we're coming up with 30 times the population of this room every hour in net population increase. So if the meeting's two hours long, it probably will be. I'm trying not to drag it out too much, but that's 60 times the population of this room. That's going on and on and on. When I was in Saanich Council, and I'll finish at this point, people used to say, well, that's agricultural land that's not even being used now. But now is right now. What about 3 weeks, 6 months, 10 years from now? I'd say hang on to every square inch of it. It's precious.
Hi. So for those that don't know me, my name is Dave Frank, also known as Mr. Organic, and I'm past certified organic farmer and organic consultant. But for the last few years, I've been as an international educator. I live on the Peninsula, going to different countries, but mainly now focusing on here about food security issues. And the big thing is teaching kids how to grow health-friendly food. And in 2011, just on my own, every single week I had up to 200 kids growing health-friendly food from designated classes, designated schools, every single week as part of their school program. Following meetings with Dr. Kevin Elder, Superintendent of School District 3, and different principals, they all want the Growing Young Farmers program in the school, which is awesome. Sandown, along with everything else, gives a realistic opportunity for the kids from just North Sandwich School, next door, a brand new school going up, Parklands, Deep Cove, Sydney Elementary, maybe Colter, about 1,300 kids under a structured program, organised, managed, supervised, could be growing food along with everything else. Each of those principals, vice principals and Kevin, want it linked to the community as I do. In North Sandwich and Township of Sydney, there is not one registered community garden. Crazy. So with kids and everything else that we can do, and the community. So my statement, my suggestion, is I would ask that you all consider this very seriously. I would ask the Mayor, Council, the staff, and Rob and I have spoken a couple of times about this, and Elizabeth knows as well. And so that's my statement. We've got some little brochures about what we're doing. It is a society, it's non-profit, and so that's my statement, and any reaction to the panel to that. Thank you very much. Thank you.
My name is Joyce Mathan. I'm a resident on the Gulf Islands, and so am interested in the development of this community and generally the CRD. My question is simply one of timing. It says that the proposal has had second reading at Council. Where does it stand now, and how long does members of the public have to let Council know their views as to how they should approach this proposal? Where does the proposal stand now, and how long will it be before a final decision is made?
Thank you very much. We'll ask the CEO, Rob Buchan, to answer that.
Thank you. Right now, the bylaw has taken first and second readings. It's been accepted by the Capital Regional District, approved by the Land Commission, and we have tentative approval from the Ministry of Transportation. The next step with the bylaw is a public hearing. I don't anticipate we'll be going to that until we have direction from Council. The next step is really a report back to Council once we have the results of an appraisal. And the request, the direction for appraisal is a good one. The valuation that we've used in the business case so far has been based on BC assessment numbers, because that's all we've had. It is fair to say that once you consolidate the parcels and restrict the uses more, that will affect the land value. I'm quite confident that it'll still be a significant number. And it's still a hit. So we're going to be providing that number for Council, and I expect that'll probably be in about 6 weeks or so, along with some more detail on projected cash flows, the 5-10 year analysis of how long, with cash flows that we expect to come in and the expenditures to meet the requirements of the Land Commission. So more information to Council, perhaps in about 6 weeks. And then after that, a decision, and hopefully to a public hearing.
Hello, my name is Dorothy Field, and I do not live in North Saanich. I'm here in some ways to celebrate North Saanich because this is quite an extraordinary part of the world. I farmed in Cobble Hill for 32 years, but now I farm in my backyard in Victoria, and I'm very, very happy. I have a mini orchard, I have all sorts of vegetables, and food security is something I think about a great deal, and something we really all have to think about a great deal. If this is not accepted, if the plan, 8 rich people will live on small estates, pretty good sized estates, and there won't be a huge amount of benefit for anyone. It's my understanding that there is wooded property on the lands, and there won't be a huge amount of benefit for anyone. It's my understanding that there is wooded property on the lands. These would be protected. there's also the very strong likelihood that there will be trails on the land which will be marked and accessible to the public. So this is, beyond what everyone has already said, an enormous benefit to everyone on the peninsula. Farmland is a living national treasure, and they aren't making any more of it. Healthy community is the bedrock of rewarding life. This is a regional issue. All of you who live here, you are very lucky to live here. But this is a regional issue, and if this were closer to downtown Victoria, there would be many, many more people who are as concerned about the future of farmland and food security as I am. I guess that's what I have to say. I hope this goes through. It is such an extraordinary gift. It is such a visionary proposal. It is something that will not come around again. Thank you.
Ray Lenuri. I live in this area. I'm not a farmer, but I like growing organic food because that's the kind of food I like to eat. There was incredible work done last year by council and staff and the owner and everybody getting this proposal together. On December the 3rd, I went to a council meeting, and the owner said, "This is a good deal for me. It's a good deal for the community, but I'm not going to hang around for a long while they play games." These were his words. And if I see that it's not going forward reasonably and is getting lost in a sort of a political tangle, I'll withdraw from the deal and I will sell it as 8 lots. And he can do that legally, I understand. Now, I'm told that he's a man of integrity, and so I have to believe what he's saying. Council then, on December the 3rd, discussed a motion, which was from the Chief Administrative Officer, that staff be allowed, ordered, to prepare a memorandum of understanding stating a draft, I beg your pardon, important, draft memorandum of understanding, which would be Mr. Buchan's understanding, because he's been negotiating with the Agricultural Land Commission, stating his understanding that would go to council, so that council could either agree or disagree or change the draft. Seemed to make a lot of sense. Council voted it down. They didn't have enough information. On the 19th of December, and you can receive a copy of these things as I got off the line, there were a series of questions asked by 3 councillors to Mr. Buchan. Things they needed to know. He replied with this incredible report on January the 3rd. It answered all their questions. The same motion, that there should be, that staff should prepare a memorandum of understanding, draft memorandum, so that council could consider this and agree, disagree, whatever. That again was turned down. So really, it looks to me as if, I hope not deliberately, we're taking a great risk that the owner walks away.
I want to welcome our next speaker because I didn't realize she was in the audience. It's Lana Popham, the MLA.
Saanich South.
Saanich South. Please welcome Lana Popham.
Wow, what a packed room. This is fantastic. I'm just on my way back from Chilliwack, where I spent the day learning about a 500-member cow share program. Not a car share program, but a cow share program. Amazing things that small-scale agriculture is doing in this province. I just wanted to say a couple things. I have the opportunity with my job to travel around the province and to spend a lot of time in places like the Lower Mainland. And I spend a lot of time, for some reason, in Langley. And I'm asked to come and stand up for farmland there. Because in Langley, for some reason, it's not just Langley, but especially Langley, the highest and best use for farmland is transportation right now. And I stay in a place called the Holiday Inn Express, which is in the middle of a bunch of very fast freeways, surrounded by about 10 fast food restaurants. And half the time I don't even know how to get across the street to go fight for this little piece of farmland that's surviving among this development. So from my perspective, from the provincial perspective, we can't afford to turn our back on any bit of farmland that we have left. Thanks for coming out tonight.
My name is Tamara Sears. My husband and I have lived in North Saanich for just over 8 years, and we originally moved out here from Ontario, the dreaded Toronto area. 30 years ago, my family actually moved to a little community just north of Toronto, very much like North Saanich is today. That community over the 30 years has been destroyed by all of the farmland being changed into community, housing, self-contained communities, which are the scariest looking things you've ever seen. I did not come here tonight planning to speak, I have to be honest, but hearing everything and remembering what my family went through over the last 30 years, which is why we got our butts out of Toronto as fast as possible, as my husband and I could. We cannot let this land go. We have to hold on to it for our children, our children's children, and even just for us today. This has to stay now, and we have to fight for it hard.
Hello, my name is Natalie Chambers. I'm a farmer at Madrona Farm, and I'm here tonight to show my support for this piece of land being protected in perpetuity. Oh my goodness, here we are, we're on the island. The farmers are still aging. There's still only 3 days of food. There's young people still cannot get on the land. And these are the problems we've identified over the last 10 years that are obstacles to our food security. What are we doing? Are we waiting for the earthquake? Are we waiting for climate change to have its full effect? What are we doing? Here we have this opportunity, and I think we should really think about it. I just was involved in a rather lengthy process myself of being part of a farm protection campaign where 4,500 people in this very community, some of you here tonight, supported the protection of Madrona Farm in perpetuity for future generations. 4,500 people. This community cares about agriculture. And we don't need to wait for the earthquake. We can do it now. We can use the precautionary principle. And the biggest thing at all, I really like what Mr. Organic says. You know, my little girl was in one of his classes. She loves Mr. Organic. You know what? What are we doing here? We have no right to develop over our children's future lands. That's why I really love this First Nation stuff. You know, if you're picking 7 generations, what are we thinking about? Are we thinking about our wallets here? Come on, people, get smart.
I didn't intend to speak tonight. I was going to take the video, but here I am. I'm chair of the Farmlands Trust, and I made an offer at the last council meeting that our group would take care of this property at no cost to the taxpayer through the group that I head. And we represent quite a few people. There's many of you are probably our supporters in the audience here. We have about 1,000 supporters. And we have some pretty experienced people, and some of them are in the audience right now on our board. And we've been looking at opportunities for young farmers, and it's been difficult to find farms that anybody can afford. They're just $30,000 an acre. I remember reading in the States, the farmers said when the farmland gets over $500 an acre, it's uneconomic. They don't want it. So here we are at $30,000 an acre. Young farmers can't afford that. This opportunity is a godsend. We also have, I couldn't believe it when I first heard about it, 83 acres to be saved in perpetuity for farming and partly financed by a commercial operation nearby. I thought this was a dream come true. We're working with Central Stanage right now with Newman Farm, which is also a municipal property that was gifted to the municipality. So there's another opportunity that we have to put young farmers on the land at no cost to them except for a small lease to farm the land. But I want to make one point too to the council of the day, that this land really has to be covenanted in perpetuity, at least 25 years, because as it was mentioned, it takes 3 to 5 years to develop a piece of land. And I know, I'm a farmer too, and you bring in the soil, you have to find out where things grow, what kind of soil is best for the area. So it's a long-term plan. It can't be something that in 3 years a new council comes along and says, oh, we don't want this agricultural thing anymore. We're going to remove the covenant and do something else there. This can't happen. And I think the Farmlands Trust could be a covenant holder in this operation and secure this land for the citizens of North Stanage and the rest of the peninsula. So I hope we have this opportunity to do that. Thank you.
Just for the benefit of the audience, that's Ed Johnson, who's the chair of the Farmlands Trust. He didn't introduce himself.
Thank you. My name is Linda Lally, and we farmed on Wilson Road. I know Bernadette since she was little, and my daughter was born in the old Rest Haven Hospital. What I have to say is that when we farmed, we invited children, even handicapped children, over, and they loved it. My husband happens to be a teacher, and so am I, but I was a stay-at-home mother. One point that Berna touched on very briefly is a very important point when she mentioned Bob Duncan, and that is biodiversity. The big farms are destroying the different varieties of seeds and whatnot. We used to grow several varieties of potatoes, several varieties of beans, and so on and so forth. And it is so important to preserve the biodiversity. It's vitally important all over the world. Even countries like India and China are losing out, and eventually we could all suffer as a consequence. The other thing that I have to say is that we do need to protect land. We don't make more land. And we also need to protect our own native habitat by preserving trees. I myself, I'm stupid, but I grow acorns from Gary oak trees. I'll never see them grown fully, but I hope 500 years at least from now. And I did that simply because my friends had to stop the developer from cutting down 500-year-old Gary oaks in our area. He laughed at them and he said, well, it's only a $3,000 fine. I can afford to cut them down. But these poor old ladies hung around them. That's the reason why I grow Gary oaks. But the point is, biodiversity is important, and we cannot get away from it, and the micro and macro systems of this planet. Thank you.
I guess I should turn around so I'm not just talking to you. Yeah, I'm David Olson, and I won't say very much. Although some might think because I'm an engineer and everything else, I'm a townie. In fact, I've lived on several farms for many years during my life, but in fact, for 3 years I lived in Kenya on 10 acres, and we supported ourselves, our extended African family, and everything else with what we grew on it, and without any irrigation and not much water, what you can do in dry land farming. But anyway, what I really want to say very briefly is what the panel have touched on in particular, and that's the cost of land for young farmers and for the people, and the preciousness of this land in the global context. Because if you just read anything, you'll see that for young farmers in this country, we think, well, go somewhere else in Canada. There is big money from the Gulf states, from here, there, and everywhere, who are buying up land wherever they can find it. Great swathes of South America, Africa, Europe, all sorts of places are going under to big money from the Gulf states, from India, from China, and everywhere else. And don't imagine for one moment that they will just turn their eyes away from here. Because if we don't hang on to this for our young farmers, believe me, the Saudis or somebody will do, and what they will grow are not what we want, but what these big agribusinesses, multi-million-dollar companies which are headquartered in some skyscraper in Riyadh or somewhere, they will grow what they want to feed the market that they want, not to grow what the people here need to eat. And I'll just close with one thing, the paragraph of what the letter I sent to the letter that my wife and I sent to every CRD director. One paragraph he said is, what is crystal clear to any informed observer is the world is hastening almost unchecked towards a demographic, climatological and food security crisis which will have untold effects on the sustainability of civilized life for future generations. Since I am old, the effects on me may not be great, but we who occupy this part of the world next to Sandown have a duty to those who come after. Thank you very much.
Good evening. It's really heartening to see so many people here tonight. My name is Lori Waters and I live in Central Saanich and I'm a small business owner here in North Saanich. I'm not a farmer. I do grow some vegetables at home. I was at the council meeting on Monday night and something was said at that council meeting that has been knocking around in my head ever since. A member of council said at the meeting on Monday night that this proposal meant tying up 83 acres with restrictions. This has been bothering me because I don't see this proposal as tying up 83 acres with restrictions. So I'd kind of like to turn that notion on its head. What I see is that if this proposal doesn't move forward, if this land is privatized, that would be restrictive. If this land is paved, that would be restrictive. So what I think we should do is accept this amazingly gracious gift, because what this proposal means is opening up a community resource in perpetuity for all of us. Thank you.
As I see a few people leaving just before we see a few more, not many, just a few, and they probably have other appointments. But I'd just like to see a show of hands in the room of who is in favor of the Sandown proposal. You want to get up here? Thank you very much. I would say that's an overwhelming majority as I look around the room. Make sure you let the council know what you think. I just wanted to make sure that we got everybody before they might leave. Thank you.
I didn't ask for a vote.
Oh, well, you want to have a vote?
Well, the question's very general.
Yeah, who's
It's a
opposed?
general question.
Beg your pardon?
I think the question is rather general because I've been sitting here listening to the people at the back just to get an idea where they're coming from. And they're saying that we're all in favor of it. I mean, sorry, I don't mean to associate myself with them. I'm quoting. They're saying we're in favor of it, but not the way it's set up. Is that right? Yeah. So maybe we should hear from one of you. Yeah. So in other words, it's a general question. Like I think we're all in favor of it. Even Ted Daly said many times he was in favor of it. It's just the way it's going, what we're going to do with it, and how it's going to happen. I mean, we all want it. Well, that's what I was going to go ahead up to the mic and say, but you can see that I have a loud enough voice that I don't need a mic. Yes. And my friend here, Ms. Rook, said that it is, it can be very intimidating to be on the other side and not, well, listen, folks, I'm on your side, but give them a little respect. Okay, now Janice is coming up now. Okay, you want me to walk with you?
I will do it in order of the people who have arrived.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nikki. That's fantastic. I'm really glad to see that. Oh, yeah. My name is Ryan May. I'm from Vancouver Island. I grew up in Bowser. I've worked with agriculture, organic agriculture, community agriculture, BC to Brazil, in Europe, all over the place. I'm currently working on a project right now that is going to make me how many dollars? $0. So one of the things that I want to mention is there's a lot of different ways to look at a project or a problem or a possibility, and we can use a lot of different languages to judge the success or failure or positives or negatives of it. Money is one way, and let's face it, if we see a lot of different estimations of how much money something like this is going to make, I'll say, okay, yeah, you go out and farm it. Farmers generally make around $4 an hour. I know because I've been one. Organic local farmers. It's not a money-making thing, and I just want to make that probably pretty clear. When the economy dries up and there's no more money. When the food dries up and there's no more food, there's no more life for people. So let's use the right language here, and let's talk about life. I think I represent the younger generation in this room. I was totally happy and excited to see everybody's hands go up with support for this thing. I was already beginning to feel like I would be sort of, preaching the converted part of me. It sounds like we're all in, relatively firm agreement with this thing, so I'm delighted to hear that, and I want to see this thing work, and I want to see life on this planet continue in perpetuity, not just for 25 years. I want to see it go for a long, long time, and I think this is a wonderful opportunity. Every community in the world right now that makes this decision to go forward positively, protecting farmland, protecting and increasing biodiversity, producing food locally, and celebrating life on this planet, that's a community. Thank you very much.
Is it on? My name is Ted Iser, and I'm sure a lot of you have seen me before running for council last time. We're all in favor of this project. I think we can all agree that we're in favor of the spirit of the project. What we don't agree with are some of the numbers that are being thrown around. And let's be clear about this. This is a land swap. It is not a gift. This is a matter of getting 12 acres out of agricultural land reserve for commercial development. And there's a whole bunch of money available for doing that. And yes, it is a good deal. It's a win-win situation about that. But let's get over this business about it being a gift. It is a matter of land being taken off of a particular ownership, but it's in return for a huge amount of rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Janet Rook, and thank you, Mark, for those words. It can be extremely intimidating and scary to stand up here, and which right now it is. So bear with me. I am in favor of this proposal. I do have some concerns, and I've expressed them at council meetings, and I do give credit to staff and the council. They are working through our concerns, answering our questions. I think it's a little premature for us to show a sign of hands this evening, because we don't have all the information that we require. I have actually attended pretty much every council meeting for the last 4 years, fairly educated on where we're at this point. It's wonderful that you've all come together, but please be aware that there are costs that are going to be involved in this. One of my biggest concerns is before we make the actual transfer of ownership to the commercial, with the present covenant that we are applying for, there are certain requirements that we have to meet. Those requirements are going to cost money. Where is that money going to come from until the transfer is done? That would be my first concern. As the numbers are being thrown out that the property of the commercial would be worth $350,000. Let's slow down, sorry. As I see it as raw land, it is taxable income of $80,000 at this point. So how long will it take us to fulfill the requirements is a question that I have, that we can generate it, that our tax dollars will be the $350,000. At present, it would sit at $80,000. So these are the concerns. It all sounds fuzzy and lovely and warm, but it's a gift. that there are actual costs behind this gift, and that's what I would like to see us respect our councillors that are posing these questions and looking for the answers. They're not against it, I know that. I sit in that room every Monday night. It may appear by the public, by the media, that that's the impression but they're working hard to protect you, the taxpayers. No one is against it. Please don't sit and shake your head, because I'm there, and I understand it's my right to be able to speak to without feeling bullied. Thank you very much.
Sure. Is there, you know, it wasn't really a total question, but if you're, all right, the panel members are asking you to come up and address what was raised, if you are comfortable doing that.
Remember?
Yeah.
Any particular points?
That the costs haven't been adequately addressed, I think, is that correct? Yep.
What I heard, I think, Janet, and correct me if I'm wrong, was asking for some information around the timing. You know, how and when is it are the improvements going to be paid for? And you know, I think you're right. That's a very good question, and staff are working on that. You know, we started that work on a spreadsheet today. We're going to need to have the appraisal in hand to see what the real value after all the zoning is all done. It'll still be a gift. It's a matter of what the quantum it is. So, you know, that is coming, and you know, from my point of view, they're fair questions. Absolutely, we respected it. It was good to get those questions. We're you know, working hard on them, and I'm pretty positive about what it might look like.
I'm going to try.
Thank you.
You know, whenever we stand up here, we don't know exactly.
Please give your name first. Sorry.
Of course. My name is Mark LaBelle. I live in North Saanich. Been here for almost 7 years. Mark LaBelle. What I was saying was that it's never easy to figure out what you're going to say the minute you get up here and you're in front of people. But I'm going to try to articulate some thoughts for you. Think back 3 years ago when Alice was elected. Just think back how we felt. 3 years ago, things were going smoothly for about 2 years. Then Shaw and Fay resigned. Then Brown and Mearns were elected. That's when everything changed, right? But they were elected. We had a chance to change it at the last election, and we didn't. Now, maybe we are not the ones that are responsible for this. Maybe the people that voted, or the bulk of the people that voted, had already left. I noticed a lot of people left, but I think they weren't necessarily on, quote, our side. Okay? But we didn't have the votes. So now let's think about what we have to deal with. So people were talking about, oh, you got to call council and the mayor. You don't got to call council and the mayor, you got to call the Gang of Four. You have to talk to them. Now, I can go up to Ted Daly, big black guy. I can go up to Dunstan Brown, he's from South Africa. No, think about it. He, right, you know, 20 years ago, he was in power in South Africa. So think about me going up to Dunstan Brown. You know, we had an argument over video. I was videotaping council, and Brown said, I'm not going to do it. And he walked out of council, and we were outside, and we were this far away, and we were having a dialogue. I still don't agree with him. I still don't agree with Ted or the other council members, but at least there is dialogue. And what you have to do is when you talk to these people, you have to use good language, proper dialogue, and if you feel like threatening them with your vote, go ahead, you can do that. It's part of our society. I gotta tell you, I'm a little upset tonight because when Alice was elected, I thought, oh, you know, I never went to council meetings. I went to council meetings, you know, the community plan, remember that? Defeated Ted Daly, right? We thought we'd never see him again. Seriously, well, no, it's not a joke. We just thought that was it for Ted Daly, right? He came back. He got elected. Holy smokes. But it happened. And we got to live with it for 3 years.
Okay, so all I'm telling you, it's funny, whenever I get up on stage, I'm always sort of giving you this peacemaker type speech. But it's really true. We've got to work together. We live in a hell of a great community. I'm from Ontario as well, so don't feel as bad. That other woman who said she was from Ontario. We love it here. But you just, as a sort of an outsider, please keep dialogue, talk to them with respect, and if it doesn't work out, get rid of them. Next election. That's all we can do. Thank you.
Hi. Well, my name is Helen Gray, and I wasn't going to talk about the political situation, but with Sandown, I think what it gives us is the opportunity to work together on a project. And I think everybody's ideas should be on the table. It should be a community vision, and it can be our commons. It can be where we have a vision in common. And hopefully in this next few years, the council, the opposition will work with council and mayor, and we'll come up with a plan that suits the community. What I want to stand up here tonight and talk about is our farmers, and what a hell of a hard job it is. And we can idealize all we want about getting farmland and how wonderful it would be, and of course it will be. But what it requires is us to buy their food, to keep our local businesses going, to spend more of our money from our pockets and more of the food we put on our table from our local farmers, because it is tough making a living. They're up against so many regulations, and we should be always trying to look at how we can help the farmers. There's still a ton of things around their necks to stop them from being able to make a decent living on the land. So all the sentiment here tonight, I would hope that we will take our shopping bags, go to our local stores, go to the Roost, the farm market, our lavender people, our growers, and support our local businesses so that this energy tonight actually equates into a real on-the-ground, measurable result for our farmers. Thank you.
I'll keep this short. I'm going to address it to Rob Buchan if I could. It's Candy Rocks in North Saanich. I too left Toronto, or we did 20 years ago, to come from a paved parking lot into North Saanich. But however, that is not the topic tonight. I was with a group of individuals yesterday, to be exact. And these individuals were under the illusion that the remediation, which there may be some remediation needed at Sandown due to a variety of spills. The individuals argued with me that it was going to be the taxpayers' money. I in turn said, no, you haven't read the necessary papers, and I believe that Mr. Randall is going to pick up those costs. And Rob, is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Because it was alluded to by various individuals that the remediation would have to be picked up by the taxpayers.
I will let Hildegard speak. It should be the last speaker because I want to give the chance. Well, Sylvia, you're there too. Okay, 2. 3. If you're short, because I've got to give them, before everybody starts slowly moving out, I want to give the panel a chance to respond to a lot of the things they've heard tonight. So if you can be quick. Name first.
We are building like crazy.
Keep it right close to your mouth.
We are building like crazy. Houses everywhere, big estates and shopping malls, and it goes on and on. Go to the Lower Mainland, you can hardly find a way. And so many houses are empty. I asked the real estate board in Victoria, there are 2,503 houses for sale right now. Many can't be sold. And still what we need
that is land. There is a 500% increase in dwelling units and a 6% increase in population growth. On the peninsula, only 0.5 or 1%. But we need land. That is the most important thing. And so, if we have such an opportunity that we have land, we have to secure it right away for the future generations that nobody can take it away. And then what did the first settlers do? They started to till the land. They started slowly, one portion, and if they were successful, then they started with the next one. And this could be a wonderful opportunity for the community. This is a great opportunity. Let's take it, and let's don't that it doesn't slip us away. So we have to be responsible for the future of our children and grandchildren. There is land, and so we don't need to depend on land, on the food being shipped here from Chile and Mexico and California, and when it comes here, it is half death. And then we have to fill it, revive it with chemicals. So we have here the opportunity. Let's take the opportunity and start farming. And Rome wasn't built in one day. It took a long while. So let's start. Thank you.
My name is Sylvia Thistle-Miller. I am a resident of North Sandwich. I also own commercial property and pay my taxes into Sydney. Raised out here since I was really little, like 1958. And I'm passionate about this area, and I'm passionate about that piece of property because when I was 5 years old, we actually went to the races and we played those horses, and it was amazing. And no, I'm not a gambler at this point in my life. It didn't do that to me, but it did make me want a horse desperately, get a horse, and ride the trails around here. Again, I don't farm. I'm never going to be a farmer. I buy organic. I always have. I don't want to see pavement. I want to look at vacant land. I love vacant land. The commercial, it really isn't going to benefit my commercial property. In fact, it may downgrade my property because right now we're the last piece of commercial. It really is about saving that property for all of us, whether we farm it or we don't, whether we walk it, whether we keep our owls up there. I would like you to address the water issues because there are 3 pipes coming into that land, dumping water from the community. If you could address that when I'm done. Rob, is that all right?
I don't know.
Well, I'd like you to address that because there is concern about the costs involved in water and whose water that really is.
I'll try.
Okay. I want to read from an article. Actually, it's a letter that was written by then Connie McBride, who is now Councillor Connie McBride, and it was in the Review dated Wednesday, September 21st, 2011. And it's one paragraph that I want to read, and it says, "It may be a wonderful project for the community of North Sandwich, but the taxpayer, not just the mayor and council, should have a voice." I suggest she needs to reread this and listen to our words because there's a lot of voices here today. And we are for this project, I do believe the majority. I want to say something else, and it goes back to the Mr. Mayor a few years ago, and some of the names that were used on people here. And I'm going to declare myself not just a tree hugger, but a flat earth person. Okay? And I heard that a lot back then. And I'm ashamed to say that I actually listened to it. But yeah, I'm one of those nasty flat earth people.
I'm going to pass the microphone to Rob, but I had intended to pass these baskets. If anybody would like to help our smallish group that is renting the church tonight, if you can find a little bit of change, we'd really appreciate it.
On the question of the water, and I understand that we're talking really about stormwater management. The requirement from the Land Commission is about providing drainage on the land. It's not about solving any adjacent problems. Our engineer has spoken with the hydrologist, found out what would be required in terms of meeting the land commission's requirement for drainage, agricultural drainage on the property. That's estimated to be $100,000 and would likely include 2 retention ponds on the property. No increase in runoff from the property. We deal with everything that's going on to the property now as well. But one thing I do want to mention, which just occurred to me at the last council meeting, there is other stormwater management problems in North Saanich. What's really interesting about this, and we haven't discussed it at all staff level because it just didn't really occur to us until last Monday, is much of that land right now is relatively impermeable. The track, the old practice track, the parking areas, relatively impermeable. We're talking about bringing on, thanks to the generosity of the Victoria Airport Authority, and the Randalls, because they're going to give us the topsoil from their 12 acres, somewhere in the vicinity of 55 acres of topsoil on top of what we already have there. That's a sponge. That retains water. That will actually help very significantly the existing stormwater management problem. So that's a benefit that I thought was worth mentioning vis-a-vis stormwater management.
Thank you. Thank you, Rob. And our quickly.
There's 3 water pipes coming in from the town though, right? There's water being directed off the back road onto that property.
I would have to ask my engineer. I don't know enough about that detail. I've asked him to do that work.
Okay, it's water, as far as I know, it's water coming in from, yeah, okay.
Can I ask a question about this 55 acres of topsoil? Like, I don't know, am I way out of whack? Is this going to be an organic farm or is this going to be sort of something else? Like, that's just kind of blowing my mind. Maybe I was thinking, like, whoa, that's a lot of topsoil. Is that a for sure deal? Or is that...
That's a for sure deal.
Wow.
Hi, my name is Nikki Wiley. I've lived in North Saanich for 30 years. I'm very lucky. I feel very blessed. I've raised a family, 2 great kids, and feel I'm part of the community, and I'm a farmer. And I don't own my land. And I don't own the land next door, but I farm it. And I'm very, very lucky. And I hope that Sandown will be the place where the next generation gets that opportunity also, because it's all far too expensive. Organic, the 55 acres will be organic, give it a little bit of time. We can farm a little bit of Sandown to begin with. We don't have to farm 85 acres, we could farm 5 with the kids and Mr. Organic. It doesn't all have to happen now, but we need the land now. Thank you.
So just as a reminder, my name is Bob Peart, and I'd like to just thank everyone for coming. The public voice is very, very important, and I think what I've heard tonight is we need to figure out how to protect these lands. And I think the other thing that's been clear tonight is we need to do that in a civil and respectful manner and be very, very careful about how we approach that. We need to send our message to council, and please do that. And I like Max's image of the white flag. So those are kind of my scribbled notes. I'm Trevor Brady, here at the people.
I'm going to keep it very brief because I'm hoping that the time that I don't spend talking to you, you will spend writing to your counselors. For or against, I think it's important that they find out exactly what we all think. But I do also want to just mention something that's gone by twice without real acknowledgement, and that is that Ed Johnson from the Farmlands Trust has offered to donate a lot of expertise and knowledge, as well as I believe they have an agrologist as well who would be a great resource. So I would like to thank you for that, because you mentioned that the meeting.
There was also the offer that Laura Underwood started us with tonight, that the Band Council should be contacted. I wanted to just say that this community and our ability to solve problems where there might be a downside here and there that people want to latch onto, let's all be creative. Let's respect those who don't immediately share our enthusiasm, find ways to work together, and have this project as it goes forward epitomize the best of bringing together people. And I particularly think we need to be respectful and praise those people who spoke up as a minority in the room. That's always hard to do. I've done it a lot. In much tougher rooms. So I just want to say that this is an opportunity for us to be creative, respectful, loving, and come up with the best possible way to move forward. But the bottom line is farmland doesn't, making new soil can't make soil. Making new land can't make it. And I know that the Airport Authority wants to move ahead with its project, whether this one goes ahead or not. There are a lot of exciting opportunities happening for this community. Let's not let this one slip through our fingers or offend those who disagree with us. Thank you.
I just want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. It's a wonderful showing. I really appreciate this, and I know all our group, the Friends of Sandown Community Farm, really appreciate the turnout. And let's keep moving forward. This is what we have to do. This is terrific. The feeling in the room is great. And it was about bringing community together, bringing information onto the table so people understood the issues better. And I hope that you've all learned something tonight and have an idea of how to move forward. I think this is an extraordinary proposal, and I was there that first night when Bill Randall spoke, and his family is very dedicated to leaving a legacy for North Saanich. And we shouldn't forget that. I've watched developers for years, and very few are as generous as he is. It isn't just a land swap. This has got his heart and soul of his family, his parents, his grandparents. They all were involved with this property, and that's clear. And they want to have a heritage tree protected on the property. Some of us went for a site visit on Friday, and there is this wonderful oak tree that they want to have as a memorial as well to the family. So they are intricately connected with this land. This is a proposal that they stand behind. And I think that is part of what we also have an opportunity to make sure it is a legacy for everyone for the future. And I think that's the sacred trust. Thank you very much.